Imagine a reality where the Roman Empire never collapsed. Instead of falling to invading armies, Rome integrated into a global technological federation, initiating the Industrial Revolution by the 3rd century BC. In this timeline, the Library of Alexandria isn't lost to fire, it's digitized using early mechanical computers. And by the time we hit the Middle Ages, humanity has already established its first outposts on Mars. In our reality, we got the Dark Ages. Our ancestors spent 1,000 years fighting over mud and dying of preventable diseases, while the stars remained entirely out of reach. Standard historical accounts blame this 1,000-year stagnation on nomadic invasions, the plague, or shifting trade routes, but those are mere symptoms of a deeper structural failure. To find the source of the delay, we have to look past the hardware of history and examine the foundational software of our culture. Thousands of years ago, a single storyteller wrote a specific logic into our collective thinking, and that logic contains a catastrophic bug. When Greece emerged from its own earlier Dark Age in the 8th century BC, the poet Homer had a vast archive of myths to work with. The Trojan War material alone offered a masterclass in military logistics, complex siege engineering, and high-stakes diplomacy. He could have focused his work on any of those sophisticated systems. He made a different choice. The very first word of the very first book of Western literature is mnein. It means wrath. Homer decided to center his epic, the Iliad, entirely on the psychological drama of a single man. Achilles refuses to fight because a rival commander took his war prize, a captive woman. This narrative decision prioritized an individual's emotional tantrum over the collective survival of the state. It taught generations of ancient leaders that personal pride was worth sacrificing an entire army. By canonizing Achilles, Homer encoded raw, explosive violence and emotional destruction as the highest virtues a person could aspire to in antiquity. This code was still executing perfectly a few centuries later. Alexander the Great literally slept with a copy of the Iliad under his pillow. He modeled his entire existence on Achilles. That imitation allowed Alexander to conquer the known world through sheer aggression. But in the long-term work of building a civilization, unpredictable emotional volatility is a fatal weakness for any leader. Because his empire relied entirely on the gravitational pull of his own ego, rather than a self-sustaining administrative framework, the entire system collapsed into pieces the moment he stopped breathing. There was an alternative. If Homer had prioritized technology and strategy over brute strength, he would have made Odysseus his central hero from the start, a man defined by his calculated, disciplined restraint. Under that cultural code, the elites of the ancient world might have treated devices like the Aeoliopile, a first-century steam engine, as the foundation for mass industry, rather than a clever parlor trick. Leaders following the Odysseus Code would not march their men to death at the edge of the map just to feed their own pride. They would build a continuous railway network from Babylon straight back to Athens. We are still running that ancient code. Even today, our culture romanticizes the idea that greatness requires emotional instability and that revenge is a poetic necessity. Look at anyone holding real leverage today and you'll see the exact opposite. In the mechanics of actual power, raw emotion is a dead weight. Ego is a resource you spend strategically to achieve a goal, never something you hoard. This flowchart illustrates a crucial rule. Storytelling is the operating system of society. The myths we input compile into our cultural virtues, which then dictate the structures and technologies we are capable of building. Actual victory lies in the quiet, rational work of designing a system so resilient that it eventually makes the leader entirely obsolete. A glorious death on the battlefield is just a failure of planning. The next time you feel your own pride pulling you into a conflict, think of Achilles burning down his world for an insult, and choose the blueprints of Odysseus instead. If you were rewriting the code of our culture today, which emotion would you delete to ensure our survival?